Thank you, Alicia. That was a nice, calm way to start. I love that piece. So please settle in as we get ready to start our morning service. Last call, really quick for coffee or snacks. It's getting closed any second. So while we're waiting, now we take a moment for community announcements. If there are people here that need to let us know something that's happening this week or next week or...
Hello, David McElroy. Next Monday is the men's support group, the last one of the year. It'll be here at 6:30. If you have not come before, any gentleman or a man that has not come, see me afterwards and I'll tell you all about it. It's basically we do potluck and just talk about current events and check in and it's really fun. Yes, Carl.
Yeah, a week
I'm
from
sorry,
tomorrow.
the 9th. Yes, not a week from tomorrow. Don't come tomorrow night because there won't be anybody here. Well, there might be, but it won't be us.
Good morning, everyone. Michelle Flores on behalf of personnel. We are collecting, like we do every year, staff funds for staff bonuses for the end of the year. This bag will go around in addition to the regular basket, so if you want to contribute separately, we'll be collecting these for the next 4 weeks. There's also a QR code, and there's a QR code with the link in the notable news as well. So.
And just to tag on it, if you use the link, just be sure you put, if you're doing for staff bonuses, be sure to put it in that particular field. There's near the top, there's this, I think it's the third option. Anyway, I'm here for the finance team. Just to let you know that later this week, we're going to be meeting and planning on sending out just updated pledge statements for our financial year, just so everybody knows where they are, just an FYI. As always, if you have any questions, just reach out.
Jill Vita for Women's Group. We're having our party on Friday night here, 6 o'clock, tree decorating, gift exchange, potluck. I hope you guys come, or ladies come. Sorry. And wear your jammies, that's right. And don't steal Ann's pajamas this year.
I'm Janet with programs. Not next Sunday, but the Sunday after, we're going to have another New Inquiring Minds discussion, and it's going to be after the service at noon, and it's going to be led by Lindsay, who is going to be leading a discussion on atheism and agnosticism in the context of UUism. Also, it might be a little early to announce, but why not? On the 22nd, we're going to have Christmas caroling, our third annual Christmas caroling event. So mark your calendars, and any of you who you don't have to be in the choir, it's really for anybody. If you enjoy singing Christmas carols, we'll be going to a local memory care center.
Hey guys, Derek, Facilities and Grounds. From the back, this guy looked just like John Mowbray. And I thought, it was John back?
Even from the front a little bit, now that you mention
And even
that.
from the front, a member of the congregation. Anyways, yeah. I look like Woody? Okay. Anyway, so enough of the jokes. The locks. So for all the folks who made a donation to get the new locks, thank you very much. If all goes well, we're putting them in on Tuesday. And For all the folks that signed the sheet that Laurie sent out, I'll send you a pin as soon as possible. Okay? Any questions?
You. Hi, Lori Hospitality. I couldn't find my sign, but next week is our holiday potluck. So please remember to bring your food, whatever. It's going to be a festive holiday extravaganza. And so please remember to come and bring something. If you can't bring something, you're still welcome because we always have so much food.
Yes. And as part of programs, along with Janet, next week Reverend Kathy will be here. The following week, we're having a special musical duo here, harpist and clarinet. And they're going to do a holiday service for us. They're wonderful musicians. They were at the First U concert series back in October when I saw them, and they're really wonderful, so that'll be fun. And on the 29th, we're going to be doing our poetry sharing again. We'll have more information on that. And let's look forward to a wonderful holiday season together. So before we get started, turn off your noisemakers. I did that. And let's settle in, and we're ready to begin. Our theme today is joy. What brings me joy is being together with all of you. So my words this morning are from Allison Wohler. It's good to be together. With thankful hearts, we have come together this morning to celebrate the bounty of the day, to bask in the warmth of this community, to share with friends the tides of our lives, to entertain perennially our hopes for a better future. We join together this morning, as always, to resist injustice and inequity whenever they may be found. Our hearts are touched by the human need we feel around us, whether far away or within the reach of our hand. We come here to be together because this is how we believe our lives are best lived. In questioning and conversation, in compassion and in service, in gratitude and in joy, in companionship and love. It's good to be together with you this morning. So let's begin with our opening music. May nothing evil cross this door. That sounds wonderful.
I don't know, maybe appropriate for changing the locks too. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, please rise. May nothing evil cross this door, and may fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This heart through all the world will keep you warm. We shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into our shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though the sheltering walls are thin, may they be strong to keep it out and all love in.
Our chalice lighter this morning is Chase. Just a minute. And he is 14. His pronouns are he and him. And take a look. He is very happy with his new haircut. Thank you. Please join me as we say these words together. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And the affirmation of this fellowship. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. So welcome everyone this morning. It's great to see a few new faces in the congregation and so many familiar ones. And let's take a moment to wave to our online friends who are with us every Sunday. Thank you. And we're glad you're there too. Take just a moment to maybe greet someone next to you that you don't know well. Or even that you do. Thank you. That's my favorite music of all, is hearing the welcoming each other. So if you are new with us this morning, whether in person or online, we encourage you to come back several times so you can feel the warmth of this congregation, hear what we do here. I hear it's said often that every week is different, which is true. We might have a different presentation style or different people because we don't have a called minister at the moment, but everything directs our thoughts to our Unitarian Universalist faith. So whether it looks different when you walk in the door, it's the same spirit of our faith that we bring with each other and our sense of community. So come a few times to get a flavor for who we are and see if it might be a good fit for you. Yeah. One of our traditions here is taking time in each service for joys and concerns, those things that have really impacted your life this week and made you so happy you can't wait to share it, or maybe something's happened that you'd like to put out there and maybe get a few hugs and some comfort. So please come forward if you'd like to share at the mic, and if you'd like me to bring it to you, just wave your hand and I will do that as well.
My joy is I got a haircut.
My joy is that Ellen and Robert will be taking over Coffee for this month. So she's co-chair, and they're going to be doing all the organizing. We're still looking for volunteers for the 29th, the last one, so contact her if you've got the freedom.
Hello, everyone. David McElroy. Who was the lady that used to come and sing and passed just recently? Mindy Simmons. Yes, I'd like to just take a moment to think about Mindy Simmons, because she came every year here to do Christmas carols and some of her own work. And it's just beautiful, just beautiful. And I have a couple of, I have a joy as well. I was in the paper today for my 27th year of One Man Christmas Carol, and I also had an interview with a woman from Artfully Orange that's going out. I don't know if any of you subscribe to that, but it's all about my life, which I think is kind of fun. No. But anyway, I'd love for you to come out 20th through the 22nd to see the show.
Hi, Caitlin McElroy. I've got a few joys and a few concerns. one joy and concern is that I have a third interview coming up next week. It's been a long time since I've been employed, and as you guys know, it's been rocky. So I just really like your thoughts and Juju and stuff like that as far as doing well. That it's with Full Sail University. I'm also really excited to very calmly and confidently be doing Christmas Carol with my dad and my sister this year as tech. I was kind of a mess last year, just emotionally about it, and this year I'm feeling very confident. We already did one, and Roy was there. It was great, and yeah, so a lot of moving pieces in my life right now, and I'm just hoping that it all settles in a good way. So, thanks.
So I'm so thankful for this congregation and this church. And I'm in particular thankful for two particular people. One is Lori. We had Thanksgiving dinner at Lori's house, and every year she's so generous and opens her home. And she does most of the cooking, and she's a really good cook. Yeah, I ate too much. And the other person I'm particularly thankful for, not the only two people, but is Lindsay. And Lindsay is a very special person, as anybody who's spent any time with her knows. She's extraordinarily special, and she's very talented. And one of the things that she loves in all the world is she celebrates her mother's talents. Her mother writes these Judy Bolton books. I finished this last night. It was really good. It's very cute. It's juvenile YA literature, if you know what that is. Anyway, I'm thankful every day that I have my dear friend. We do a lot of stuff together, and I don't know what my life would be without her anymore, you know? So thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Lori.
My joy today has nothing to do with football, although that was a really good day yesterday. No, my joy is that my niece, Tatiana, is turned 20 today, which is exciting. She's had health challenges, so we're glad that she's here. And also other joys that my girls were home from Gainesville for Thanksgiving, so we had all of us together, which was really nice. And I guess the concern is that, it's this a year since my sister stopped talking to me, so that's the sad part of that's my niece's mom. So just keep that in your thoughts.
Thanks. So I just have a concern. So about 4 months ago, I had a concern that I pulled my hamstring on our trip to Indonesia. And so I've been in physical therapy for 3 months. I was getting better and better and better. I was running again. And then about 3 weeks ago, I was running, and I think I was running when I was angry, and I was running a bit too hard. So anyway, so I re-injured it. And then I've been trying to get better again. And then just on Saturday, we're just out birding, and we saw a bird, and I made a sudden motion, and I just did something. And so we're going on vacation in Brazil in 10 days, and I don't really know what I'm going to do. And also, if you've ever had an injury like this, and you actually recovered from it, you can let me know and give me some hope that I'll eventually recover. Thank you.
An ongoing joy of my life has been my meditation practice for many, many years. And last call on a meditation retreat that I'll be leading next Saturday, December the 7th, at a yoga center in Popka. So if you're interested in chilling out for a day with mindfulness of breathing meditation, information is on the door there. Or you can just talk to me. And at any rate, I wish you well.
Thank you. I'm Lindsay. I had a wonderful Thanksgiving at Lori's, And the next day, I was part of the Thanksgiving that we were invited to at First Unitarian in Orlando. And that was so nice. I was there with a friend, Jack, who's a singer. Some of you know him. And he said he'd been at his senior home Thanksgiving the day before, where they'd had powdered instant mashed potatoes and other quickie things. And the one at 1U was all good food. And so he was especially appreciative of that. I do have a concern. Some of you know that I'm a Red Cross volunteer, and I go into the schools and give a presentation about emergency preparedness to elementary school children, and it is part of their regular curriculum. This year, for the first time, the government of Florida is requiring that parents return permission slips for a guest speaker invited by the school as part of the more parents' control of schools. And the teachers are not happy because getting those permission slips out and getting them back, and what you do with the kids that didn't return a slip, they still need that part of the curriculum covered. And so it's that is a concern. One more thing, I'm on the plus side. As you know, I'm doing we need something that was depressing, so I want to get you up. As you know, I'm doing the Inquiring Minds in a couple of weeks, and I'm having such fun learning more than I knew before about atheists and agnostics and the different things they're doing. I'm learning all sorts of good stuff, so I look forward to you joining me at that.
And now for something completely different. We've been watching this movie on Christmas that you've probably never heard of. It's with Humphrey Bogart. It's a Christmas movie, and it's called We Are No Angels, or We, W-E-apostrophe-R-E. And that's a nice movie if you're looking for a Christmas movie that's you haven't seen before.
Thank you, everyone. And I'm looking for online, which I should have been doing already. So nothing from online this morning. However, I know there are more joys and concerns in our hearts that have not been shared. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. And now, for a real treat, let's welcome up Joey Cole for Time for All Ages.
I can't take credit for this. Tay Barton, our new RE director or coordinator, is she's not with us yet because she's in Texas still. I think it's Texas. At any rate, she's on the ball. Even she's been hired, even though she's not here. She has asked some of us to do Time for All Ages, and she has sent me this, which I share with you this morning. What does it mean to rush slowly? To put it simply, this oxymoronic phrase means to work through the tasks life presents with a proper balance of thoroughness and urgency. If you move through a task too fast, you may make mistakes, or worse, you may not stop to enjoy the moment occurring around you. On the flip side, move through a task too slowly, and it may never be done, an opportunity that slips through your fingers. But how does one find that balance? I'd like to say it's easy to take a Ferris Bueller approach to life. Life moves pretty fast, and if you don't stop to look around once in a while, you might just miss it. But knowing when to stop is a privilege of knowing yourself well enough to know when you need a break. It is also a privilege to have the stability to stop. When every thought isn't consumed with the next deadline to meet, or the next assignment that is due, or the next bill you need to pay, there is a sense of stability, a sense that you have a proper handle on your life. And that allows you a sense of ease which allows you to think deliberately and reach the goals you're aiming for. I think the idea of rushing slowly is a beautiful idea, in theory. I think in practice it's a lot harder to master. Life changes constantly, and the progress you have made to find stability or reason or regularity may be taken away easier than it may have originally been found. It is easy to get caught up in the responsibilities of life or work or school and forget how quickly time is going by. But you do have the ability to stop and take a breath, to soak up the sun, to ride out life's changes and appreciate those who stick along for the ride, and to allow yourself a sense of peace in the stops along the way. I'd like for everyone to keep this in mind as the holidays are up and coming. It is so easy to get lost in the stress of hosting, shopping, prepping, cooking, entertaining, that precious moments and time with loved ones are overlooked at a time when we should be obviously being with loved ones. There is a lot to do during these times, and there will undoubtedly be the sense of urgency to accomplish everything. But be thorough, be deliberate, be present, and remember to always rush slowly.
Thank you, Joey and Taylor. Something to think about. Our interlude and offering is next. This congregation has chosen to share 40% of its plate with a local organization that practices our values and puts them into action. For November and December, we've chosen the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, who has been working tirelessly since 1920 to protect our rights and take care of us. And do we have, yes, oh thou joyful day. Okay, Anne? Yes.
Alicia is going to play a little bit just to get us started. And the second line is in Latin, as Janet reminded me. So it's O Sanctis Sima, right? Oh, please rise if you're, well, you can just hang out. So it's number 236.
Joyful day, oh thou blessed day, gladsome, peaceful Christmas tide, earth homebound waken, love life has taken, joyful, joyful to all Xmas tide. O Sanctissima, O Sanctissima, gladsome, peaceful Christmas tide. Light still is beaming, our souls redeeming, joyful, oh joy to all at Christmas time.
That was a new hymn, but I think we did quite well. Oh, joyful day. Let's sing our children out for their lessons. We love you and that. Okay, our speaker this morning is Pastor James Coffin, or as we like to call him, Jim. He's been here many times. I hope he's a returning favorite for you. He certainly is for me. Today he's going to bring us some stories and thoughts on joy.
Always nice to be here with you, and I'd like to begin with a few disclaimers. And first of all, I come from a Christian background. I'm a Christian minister, and so the things that I share with you have been gleaned from my life experience, but it's not as if I'm expecting you to come down to the conclusions that I have come to. I just simply am saying, here's how I've gotten where I am and why I am what I am. I consider myself to be fairly centrist theologically, socially, and politically, but I do lean a little more left than I do to the right. And I still strive rather doggedly for open-mindedness and fairness and all of those kind of things. And my presentation today is a bit of a stream of consciousness, and so it's going to go a little bit everywhere, kind of an omnibus presentation that has a bit of everything in it. And I'm using Christmas and the season of Christmas and the season of joy as the launch pad, but we will go further. And I was particularly asked to point out that, or to deal with the idea that there is a tremendous amount of divide between people in our nation right now. And maybe we could talk about that a bit in the context of the spirit of Christmas and joy and so on. So, with that introduction, then I'll get into it. I might just mention there was a game that we used to play when I was a kid. We called it Eustace to Useless. Have you ever played that? You ever heard of that? Well, what you do is you tell somebody about a 15-second story who's standing next to you. You whisper it in their ear. Then they've got 15 seconds to pass it on to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. And, it kind of usually goes goes from Eustace to useless by the time you get to the end. So that may be the kind of presentation I give today. We'll go through a bit of morphosis. I'm going to start out with Christmas. I'm going to end with Forrest Gump. Okay, so just wanted you to know that. Christmas is often called the season of joy. And in the Bible, joy is mentioned 252 times, at least as it's translated in the New International Version. That's really quite a few references to it. And in the Psalms, it's mentioned 57 times just in the Psalms. And that's particularly interesting because we usually only talk about the joyful Psalms, but there are a lot of rather morbid and depressing Psalms because life goes from joy to depression very, very readily and very quickly. And the Psalms are probably some of the most realistic and unrealistic at the same time portrayals that we find in Scripture. And the Christmas story begins on the Bethlehem hillside with angels coming and singing to the shepherds, and they say, "We bring you good tidings of great joy." And so Christianity and Christmas both, kind of build some things around joy. And the Bible talks about joy in a very effusive, very elevating, very jubilant way, but it also talks about joy in a kind of a surprising way. And it tells us that Jesus went to the cross because of the joy that was put before him. In other words, he could anticipate something good at the end, and so he goes through a lot of misery because of this joy that he feels is promised to him. The Apostle Paul said that we should find joy when we're dealing with hardship and difficulty, even persecution. And that's a different kind of joy than this sort of, thing that just wells up in you and feels so good that the heart's just going pitter-patter. It's a different kind of joy altogether. Years ago, many decades ago, actually, I bought a book called Man's Search for Himself, written by Rollo May, who is somewhat famous for Love and Will and a few other things. And he gave a statement that I find to be quite interesting. And he says, joy rather than happiness is the goal of life. Joy rather than happiness. And then he explains this a bit. Joy rather than happiness is the goal of life, for joy is the emotion which accompanies our fulfilling of our natures as human beings. And so joy is something that's much more deep-seated. Happiness is something that happens. Joy is something that we decide to have. And we can have joy when things are falling apart around us, when, like Christ could look beyond all he was going through for the joy that was set before him. And so that's something that is quite substantially different. Happiness is dependent on the circumstances. And the circumstances determine whether we're feeling that jubilant feeling or not. But joy is something that we can decide to have. So when we're looking at life, we're looking at the complexity of life, we're looking at the challenges of life, we can move forward with joy, even though our heart may not be going pitter-patter. It's altogether different. So happiness, it comes from the same word as happen. It just happens. It lands on us, as it were. Mishap, that's kind of a bad happening. Hapless means we're not, it's not going for us. But joy is altogether different. And so we come across what we call the Serenity Prayer by Reinhold Niebuhr. And this has come in several different forms, but the one that's most common is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I would add just another little phrase onto that and say, and the belief that perseverance brings joy. Okay. We press on even though it's not going our direction, even though it's not the kind of thing that we would like to see. So having used that as my springboard in my introduction, I'd like to talk a little bit about finding joy in a politically divided world where it may not be going the direction that a particular group would like to have it go. And I believe that it's important for us to look at other people as much as we possibly can as being honorable and well-intentioned, and we may have disagreements, but if we cannot demonize, if we cannot look down upon, if we can say, well, we definitely see things differently, it will work to our advantage. I did in an earlier life a little bit of marriage counseling, premarital counseling. Once they got married, I kind of wrote them off, and I figured that they'd already, but the premarital, while there was still hope, while joy still existed, that kind of thing. So this is not taken from any psychology textbook or anything like that, but I tried to teach a mantra to the couple that are getting married. And the mantra was this, and I may have used this before in presentations here, I don't know, but I would try to get them to say just over and over and over again, my beloved is good, my beloved is smart, my beloved is good, my beloved is smart. And because you're going to encounter quite a few situations where you're not going to think your beloved is good, and you're not going to think your beloved is smart. So what you have to have is this overriding conviction and commitment. No, I'm not marrying this person because I think he or she is stupid. I'm marrying because this person is smart. I'm not marrying because I think this person is bad. I'm marrying because I think this person is good. And so there are going to be behaviors where you're going to say, how in the world could a smart, good person do what they've just done? And if you've got this mantra really entrenched in your brain, then maybe it can make a difference, because you're going to say, well, how could that happen? Well, let's see if we can conjure up some kind of an explanation how a good person and a smart person could do what this person has just done. And I try to do that with varying degrees of effect, let me say, or of achievement. I try to do this in dealing with all of humanity. To look at others and say, And I really truly believe most people are smart and most people want to be good. And if there seems to be some disconnect and some incongruity there, then how can I come up with some kind of an explanation for what it is that they do or don't do to explain it? And it's kind of a fun game to play almost, you know. Well, maybe they were, you know, raised by wolves in the jungle, you know, or whatever it might be, something that can give explanation. And as we look at the other, whoever the other happens to be, and of course we have all kinds of separation within society. You know, we wear labels, and we're either this or we're that, we're this or we're that, you know, and so on. As we look at others, I'm of the opinion that almost everybody is logical and rational. Okay, now just hold on here a minute. I know you're not coming with me naturally. I think that everybody is logical and rational if we understand the assumptions and the presuppositions upon which they operate. That's where the problem comes. That the person we look at who we think is totally off the wall is probably very consistently operating on a set of presuppositions and assumptions that compared to their behavior now, it begins to make sense. Yeah, okay, Paula says we don't know what asylum they were raised in, you know. Yeah. So anyway, I'd like to just use a couple of illustrations. My wife likes to put out candy, and usually it's individually wrapped candy so that we don't, you know, spread all kinds of germs, but occasionally she'll put out M&Ms or something like that. So she put out some candy, and our 3 or 4 year old grandson comes along, and so he grabs the candy, the M&Ms, you know, that are unwrapped. And so she explains to him, you know, our hands are all germy, you know, and so don't put your hands into the M&Ms because we don't want to, you know, spread the germs. And so she put a spoon in the M&Ms. Well, that's pretty simple. You know where this is going. Okay, so she comes along, and here he is using this spoon to, you know, eat the M&Ms. Yeah. So, you know, she hadn't explained it quite far enough. See, that was the problem. And it's very logical and rational. Don't want the germy hand in the M&Ms, use the spoon. You know, we can bypass the hands. See, she hadn't explained it quite enough. She needed to go on and say, so what we do is we put in a spoon, and you take the M&Ms out of the dish, and you put them into your germy hand, and then you eat out of your germy hand the M&Ms that you got out with the spoon. See, it's just really important to give the whole story, to give the whole picture. It wouldn't be uncommon for us to hear little kids talking, and one of them says, Tommy bited me, so I hitted him. And we go, no, Tommy bit you, so you hit him. And the kid is thinking about this. Now, this kid is smart, okay, but we're gaslighting this kid. That's what we're really doing. This kid is smart. He's watched the patterns of language. And the patterns of language say if you want past tense, you add ed to it. And so he goes, you know, he did it, it was past, so he bited me and he hitted me. And we go, no, that's not the way it is. It's he bit you and you hit, you know, this, and the kid thinks about this, but we educate the child. And when we have properly educated the child will find it natural to do that which is unnatural. And the child will find it logical to do that which is illogical. And we think we've achieved something, you know, where the kid actually had a better sense of it beforehand. So the difficulty is that it may sound strange to our ear because we have been brainwashed and we have been programmed as well, mind molded, however we want to say it. And so that's how we expect it to be. And there's a lot more mind molding in all kinds of directions, and there's a lot more propagandizing, and there's a lot more brainwashing that goes on than we would like to think. I mean, we're modern people. We're scientific people. We couldn't let that happen. Well, so it's just a few of the things that I think we can think about as we relate to each other. And this is all very random, as I said. It's kind of stream of consciousness. And so we have this thing we call cancel culture. And if you're a Republican, the Democrats are the worst about cancel culture. There's no question about that. If you're a Democrat, the Republicans are worse. There's no question about that. It's actually a human problem. Okay, it is a big one, and I'm not trying to say, well, it's 45-55, or it's, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's a problem that wherever it exists, it's a problem. A couple of examples. First of all, the Republicans have banned a lot of books. And we go, oh, wow, that's terrible. And I agree. I think that I'm of the opinion that God is anti-sin, but pro-choice. Seriously. So he said in the Garden of Eden, in this story that's told, don't do this, but you decide. And so I think that, that's kind of the way we should be as humans as well. There are things we're going to be against, and we'll stand up against them, and we'll speak our mind, and we'll say we're against it, but we should be pro-choice. Okay, I'm talking broadly now. I'm not talking about just abortion and that kind of thing. But in general, I think that there should be a live and let live sort of attitude. Okay, so the Republicans banned books, but Ben Carson was scheduled to speak at a major university here in the Southeast a few years ago. And the students at the university said, first of all, he's a creationist. And secondly, he's this, that, and the other. And they went through quite a few things. And they said, we don't want Ben Carson on our campus because he's too conservative. Okay, so they put up such a hue and cry that Ben Carson couldn't come to the campus. They actually withdrew the invitation, the school administration did, because they didn't want to hear somebody who was going to say something that was so different from what they wanted to hear. And so liberals have a cancel culture problem as well. So this is something that, and the issue is not who is worse at this or who is better at this. The issue is, should this kind of thing exist? Now, let me just tell you a little bit that I think comes into it, and that is that we're always harsh on people we don't know. And we're always harsh when it comes to ideas that aren't embodied in people. So we could talk about immigration in some way, but if we know an immigrant, that puts it in a different perspective, no matter what. Anytime we know. We can talk when it comes to LGBTQ issues. If we don't know anyone who is in that group, we can be very strident, but when we know, it makes a difference. So Ben Carson. I had a doctor in my congregation who developed prostate cancer. Well, it just so happened Ben Carson had developed prostate cancer in his work at Johns Hopkins University. And he'd gone into actually stage 4 cancer. This is pretty advanced stuff. And he went to a doctor there at Johns Hopkins and was operated on, and he's lived and thrived. And so this doctor in my congregation said, I really would like to go to the doctor that Ben Carson went to because that was a pretty dramatic turnaround. But he said, he's booked up forever and he won't take new patients. And he said, if I could just get to Ben Carson, this is going back several years, if I could just get to Ben Carson, then, I think that he might contact that doctor. They both work at Johns Hopkins. He might contact that doctor and I might possibly get in. But he said, I don't know how to get a hold of him and I would be too self-conscious to even ask him. I said, I'll ask him. I didn't know Ben Carson. Okay, but I said, I'll ask him, not a problem. Well, it just so happened that Ben Carson attended a church in Maryland where I used to be the associate pastor. So that was a little bit of an insight. So I know that on Saturday morning they're going to be at church. So I phone up and I say, my name's Jim Coffin. You remember the guy who used to be here at your congregation? Anyway, I'd like to make contact with Ben Carson because I have a doctor in my congregation who needs to have prostate surgery and would like to have the same doctor that Ben used. And so anyway, they said, well, we haven't seen him yet, but if we see him, we'll get him to call you back. Within an hour, I had the call back from Ben Carson. I told him what the situation was, told him about the doctor who's too shy to ask him to come, but I'm asking him to deal with it. Gave him the number. He talked to the doctor. He made the arrangements. The doctor got the surgery, and he's fine today. Okay, so anything, now I'll agree, I'll tell you, I'm not too fond of the positions that Ben Carson takes on quite a few things. You know, I have not been impressed with him in politics. But when you've had that kind of interaction with somebody, suddenly it changes the dynamic. It's not the same thing at all. It's no longer just a name. It's no longer just an idea. It's real flesh and blood humanity, and it makes quite a difference. And so I think that it's important for us to keep these kind of things in mind and to remember that a person is not all bad or all good. We're all a blend of good and bad. We're all a blend of crazy and intelligent. We're all a blend of all these kind of things. And so there's a little poem that I learned years ago, and you've heard it before. There's so much good in the worst of us, and so much bad in the best of us, that it ill behooves any of us to find fault with the rest of us. So I think that we need to be looking at that. Okay, jumping on here. As I said, random. You know, I'm just going a little bit of everywhere. In the book of Deuteronomy, it says, don't have two measures in your house. Don't have a big one and a little one. You know, use the same measure for all time. The idea was you don't have a big measure when it comes to buying, and you say, okay, I'm going to get a quart of meal here, and you've got this big measure that's actually a quart and a half, and you use that when you're buying, but you've got a little measure when it comes to selling, and it's only half a quart, but you call it a quart. It says there's no time for that. Use the same measure all the time. And then it goes on and it says, and you're going to have a better society if you do that. If we can use the same measure all the time, if we can, whether we're talking about a Democrat or whether we're talking about a Republican or somebody who's, you know, in some other area out there, whatever it might be, if we can use the same measure all the time, it will be to our advantage, and we'll have a much better society, and we can communicate more openly and more honestly than we otherwise would. So because of the fact that I interact with Democrats sometimes, I hear them say the Republicans tell lots of lies, and I agree. But I interact with Republicans and they say the Democrats tell lots of lies. Unfortunately, I agree. You know, that's kind of the way it is. And so we will tend to not see so much what it is that our group does. Now, I'm not saying that the groups are absolutely equal and all that kind of thing. Here's the deal. What I do have a problem with is the what-about-ism. You know, you say, this person from this party did something that was wrong, and the other party says, but what about? Okay, we should be able to move beyond that, and we should be able to look at principles of life. And we should be able to say, is lying wrong? Whoever does it. And if we say yes, then we can say, okay, then anytime we come across lying in the political arena, it should be condemned. Are we not agreed upon that? As opposed to, well, if they're just a little liar, no big deal, but if they're a big liar, and I'm going to be the judge as to whether they were a little liar or a big liar, we're all on a journey in life, and all of us are growing in our understandings of things. I was listening to a commentator the other day talking about the past election, and This commentator said that he had interviewed a particular subset of society, and they had said that the men in that group categorically would not vote for a woman president. And I'm thinking, that's really antiquated, that's Neanderthal, that's bad. And then I get to thinking about it. Well, the whole of this nation refused to let women even vote until just over 100 years ago. And so that's something we have to look at. We're on this journey. And then I got to thinking, and this really hurt me big time. I got to thinking, back when I went to high school, I went to a little boarding school, only 120 students or something like that in the Midwest, Seventh-day Adventist private school. And they didn't have classes organized where the person ran for office, like to be president of the class. They just have a faculty member come in and say, okay, who would you like for your class president? And then they'd put a few names on the board and they'd vote, and then they kept voting down until somebody got a majority. And so I could have nominated any person in my class, any of us could, because we're all there. We could say, whoever. I could have nominated any person in the class to be class president, but I always nominated a guy. Because in my mind, where I was in my life at that time, this was a guy's job. Sorry, women, but, it doesn't even come on the radar screen. Now, it was 1920 that women first got the vote. That was pretty revolutionary for some people. In 1966, 67, 68, 69, I had opportunity to vote for a woman just in the class election, but I didn't. Now I'm looking at this group of benighted people out there who are so stupid that they would turn somebody down just because she's a woman. Okay, now wait just a second. I was in that position at one time, and they haven't moved in the particular journey that I took. So why should I be so condemnatory of them for being what I was? It's not really all that much different. So, there are all kinds of ways that we can reassess our lives. One of the things I came across was what they call the Wesleyan quadrilateral. And some of you, if you've studied in any theology school or whatever, you may have come across that. John Wesley didn't make this thing up. It was just kind of, as people studied his work, they said, this is how John Wesley arrives at his conclusions. And so this Wesleyan quadrilateral was that he would look at tradition. And the idea of looking at tradition is not to say we have to do what they've always done before, but it's to say, what did they do before and why did they do it? Now, there's nothing wrong with tearing down a wall, but you need to know why the wall was built before you tear the wall down. Or if you're going to refurbish the wall, or you're going to make it stronger or higher or whatever, you have to say, what's the purpose of the wall before you get into that kind of exercise? So he says we're going to look at tradition. Then he says we're going to look at Scripture, and these are not necessarily in that order, and keep in mind John Wesley didn't actually do this, they just watched how he worked, and they said, this is how he works. So we'll look at Scripture. And so in your context, I would say authoritative sources, or revelatory sources. It wouldn't be just one thing, but in his case, it was the Christian Scripture, the Bible. Then he says we're going to look at logic. How does this all fit together? Now, does it make any sense? Is this matching up with this? Then we're going to look at our personal experience. We're going to look at that. And when we put all of this into the picture, then we're able to come up with an approach that's going to be much more carefully thought through. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction. It's not just reactive, but it's actually proactive, where we're trying to figure this out in the right way. Well, rarely do we get the whole story when we're listening to, and I am winding down here now, okay? So rarely do we get the whole story when we're listening to the news or we're listening to the reports that come through. This was driven home to me in a very interesting way. Years ago, I was working in Australia at the church's publishing house, and our publications reached out to the whole of the South Pacific area. And so I would go on itineraries out to the far-flung reaches of the what they called the South Pacific Division. And so I was in Papua New Guinea up in the highlands, and this is pretty primitive country. You know, this is way out there, way out there. So the leader of the meeting that I was at said, we've got the editor of our church's publication here, and if there are any stories you'd like to tell him, he's always looking for stories, and feel free to talk to him. And so some of the pastors came up. These are the national pastors. And they told me, they said, last week the Lutherans burned down our church. And I'm thinking, boy, those Lutherans, they're pretty bad people, you know. Burning down the Seventh-day Adventist church, you know, I mean, how bad can you get? So we talk a little bit further, and I said, well, you know, what kind of tensions were there? Why would they burn down your church? And it comes out, well, 3 years ago we burned down their church. The Bible says in the book of Proverbs, the first person to testify always sounds right. The first person to testify always sounds right until someone comes and cross-examines them. And one of the big problems we have today is that we listen to our own echo chambers, and they always sound right, because rarely do we hear them effectively cross-examined in context. And so that's something that we need to look at. Well, I think I'd better look at getting this wound down here. And so I will leave you with just a couple of things. Number one is the Apostle Paul said, so much as lies within you, live at peace with everybody. Just, you know, don't worry so much about what they're doing that's wrong, but am I contributing to this in any way? So much as lies within you. There's no guarantee that you can live at peace with everybody. There are some obstinate people, and even though you've tried to think that they're good and they're smart and all that kind of thing, you still may find it hard to live with them, but so much as lies within you, live at peace with all people. And Hillel said, that which is hateful to you, don't do to others. Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I'm going to conclude with the words of the great philosopher Forrest Gump, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. I love the way your mind works. It's a lot like mine. You never know where it's going to go next, but with you at least, there's something useful at the end of your train of thought. Mine, not so much. The Forrest Gump quote, yes. But some of the things you said reminded me of last week, like the principles from the Peace and Justice Institute and the ways we're all thinking about how we can survive the holidays when we may disagree with family. And I like that, being proactive, not reactive, slowing down, turn to wonder, like, I wonder. Let's leave it there, and challenging our own assumptions. I've often heard that about faith, that yes, you can believe and have faith, but if you never question or look elsewhere, what does it mean? So thank you for that. I hope it's helpful as we move further into this wonderful month of holidays. So let's extinguish our chalice. Please join me in the words, because that's what this says. Thank you. Now our closing music, one of our favorites, and Paula is going to lead us.
Now, this has long been a favorite in this congregation, to nobody's surprise. If it's not familiar to you, you do have a book handy, and it's number 123, so it's easy enough to find. And we're going to sing it through twice, because that's what I want. Once is not enough. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
And now may the blessings of life be upon us and upon this congregation. May the memories we gather here give us hope for the future. May the love that we share bring strength and joy to our hearts, and the peace of this community be with us until we meet again. Let's enjoy a postlude. Oh, what a wonderful world. Perfect ending. Okay, let's open that kitchen and have conversation, coffee, tea, and whatever.